It's the night of December 8, 1963. Sinatra Jr. was performing at Harrah's Club Lodge in Lake Tahoe. At around 9 p.m., while resting in his dressing room with a friend, a man knocks, posing as a delivery person. Moments later, Sinatra Jr. was blindfolded and whisked away to a waiting car, a night that would forever change the life of Frank Sinatra Jr. and shock the entire world. It wasn't just a kidnapping. It was an intricately planned heist, filled with unexpected twists and a series of bold decisions that nearly paid off. This is the true story of how a group of amateurs almost pulled off one of the most notorious kidnappings in American history.
The Sinatra Kidnapping.
The kidnappers of Frank Sinatra Jr.
Frank Sinatra Jr. was held for ransom.
Kidnapped the boy at gunpoint. $240,000 ransom they demand. They play for high stakes at Lake Tahoe. $250,000 against the life of a youth like Frank Sinatra Jr. They play for high stakes at Lake Tahoe, but seldom so high as for $250,000.
Barry Keenan and Joe Amsler, two former high school classmates from Los Angeles, were broke, desperate, and ready to take a reckless gamble. Both just 23 years old, their plan was simple but ambitious. Kidnap Frank Sinatra Jr., the 19-year-old son of one of the most famous men in the world, and demand a ransom that would set them for life. They followed Sinatra Jr. from city to city, tracking his tour schedule, learning his habits, and waiting for the right moment to strike. It wasn't going to be easy. His father was a megastar, and any mistake could lead to disaster. The opportunity came at a nightclub in Lake Tahoe. Sinatra Jr. had just finished a performance and was relaxing in his dressing room with his friend and trumpet player, John Foss. That's when Barry Keenan made his move. Keenan knocked on the door pretending to deliver a package. When the door opened, the two men rushed in, guns drawn. Keenan and Amsler quickly overpowered Foss, tied him up with adhesive tape, and blindfolded their target, Sinatra Jr. They ushered him through the side door, straight into their waiting car. Back in the dressing room, Sinatra Jr.'s friend, John Foss, managed to break free from his restraints. In a state of shock, he alerted the hotel staff and local authorities immediately. Within minutes, roadblocks were set up around the Tahoe area, and police and FBI agents were mobilized. The hunt for Frank Sinatra Jr. had officially begun. Just hours into the abduction, fate took an unexpected turn. As Keenan and Amsler were driving their hostage from Lake Tahoe back toward Los Angeles, they encountered one of the very roadblocks set up by law enforcement. For most kidnappers, this would have been the end, but Keenan had a plan. When officers stopped them, Keenan kept his cool. He gave the officer a simple excuse, saying they were just some college students driving through the area. The police, unaware that they had the missing Sinatra in the trunk, let them pass. With one quick bluff, the kidnappers were back on the road, narrowly avoiding capture. After their near brush with the law, Keenan and Amsler drove to their hideout in Canoga Park, a quiet suburb of Los Angeles. They held Sinatra Jr. captive there, trying to keep him calm while they prepared their ransom demand. Sinatra Jr. could barely see his captors, only catching glimpses of them when his blindfold was briefly removed. Keenan contacted John Irwin, the third conspirator, who would make the ransom call to Frank Sinatra Sr. In the dead of night, the demand was set: $240,000 in exchange for the safe return of Sinatra's son. By December 10, the elder Sinatra had gathered the ransom money, as per the kidnappers' instructions. The FBI, monitoring every step of the way, photographed the cash before the drop-off. At dawn on December 11th, the money was placed between two school buses in Sepulveda, California, exactly where Keenan had instructed. Keenan and Amsler collected the money, but as they counted their winnings, Irwin began to crack under pressure. His nerves got the better of him, and without consulting his partners, he decided to release Sinatra Jr. Sinatra Jr. was freed and left to wander through the streets of Bel Air. Eventually, he was spotted by a security guard who took him to his mother's house to avoid the press.
The boy is released near his mother's home, just 54 hours after he was seized. He is unharmed.
I was scared. I was a little bit nervous, naturally, but the only thing I could do is hope for the best.
The young singer had survived the ordeal, but the nightmare was far from over. Sinatra Jr. provided the FBI with limited details, only a glimpse of 2 kidnappers and the voice of a third. Meanwhile, the FBI was closing in, piecing together the breadcrumbs the kidnappers had unknowingly left behind. The breakthrough came when agents discovered a smudged fingerprint on an envelope and another on the adhesive tape used to bind Sinatra Jr.'s friend. It was enough to point them straight to the hideout in Canoga Park. As the FBI tightened the net, John Irwin's nerves were fraying. Paranoia set in. He couldn't take the pressure anymore. Guilt gnawed at him like a relentless predator. In a moment of panic, he cracked, spilling the entire scheme to his brother, who in turn contacted the FBI. The game was over. Within hours, Keenan and Amsler were apprehended, and most of the ransom was recovered, sealing the fate of the conspirators.
The FBI locates the San Fernando Valley hideout where the kidnappers of Frank Sinatra Jr. held him for 2 days, and dramatically the case is broken wide open. The FBI conducted its investigation in complete secrecy. 5 days of swift and effective detective work. Under arrest are the kidnapped suspects, Barry Worthington Keenan, 24, picked up in the Los Angeles area. According to the FBI, Keenan already had started spending ransom money. Also arrested are John William Irwin, 42, and this young man, Joseph Clyde Amsler, 23. The 3 suspects are rounded up along with most of the $240,000 ransom, which it is now revealed was passed to the gang by an undercover FBI courier.
Despite initial defense attempts to paint the kidnapping as a publicity stunt orchestrated by Sinatra Jr., irrefutable evidence emerged. A confession letter from Keenan, found in a safe deposit box, proved their guilt. The trio, Keenan, Amsler, and Irwin, were convicted, marking a significant victory for the FBI. The Sinatra Jr. kidnapping remains one of Hollywood's most audacious crimes, a real-life whodunit that captivated a nation.
All the Sinatras are relieved the case is closed.